There we go.
Right.
Great. Thank you so much, Alice.
Are we ready?
Yeah, we can get started.
Okay. Welcome everyone to the City of Albany Commission on Human Rights meeting. It is Wednesday, April 29th. We are of course virtual. Meeting at 6. This is Brenda Robinson. I am the chair, and we will do roll call. Judith?
Judith Mazza, Commissioner.
Thank you. We have Mr. Aaron Moore.
Aaron Moore, Commissioner.
All righty. We have our new commissioner, Mr. Trayvon Jackson. Trayvon Jackson, sorry.
Yes, Trayvon Jackson, Commissioner.
All righty. And we have our legal beagle, Ms. Peachy Jones, right?
Yes. Hello, everyone.
And our executive director, Angelica Kane.
Yep, Angelica Kang right here. Hello.
And we have an assistant on line too, assisting us. What's her name?
Alice Otto.
Alice.
Alice Otta. Okay, all right. So far, that's what we have. Welcome, everyone. We're gonna just get started and get through this agenda. We're going to, number one, table our approval of minutes. But we have a new commissioner here that we would love to welcome. Unfortunately, you're not in person, so I would love to meet you in person. But I'm gonna give you the floor so you can tell us a little bit about yourself, and we can go around the room if you like and share about ourselves if you like.
Yeah, well, thank you. I'm happy to be here. I'll be brief. I'm a Troy native, born and raised in the South End. I left and went to Morehouse College in Atlanta before working in Chicago for a bit and then returning home where I started my own development firm, Blue Light. And that's where I've been working for about the past 5 years, focusing in nonprofit public space development, primarily commercial buildings. So in that capacity, I interact with a lot of the public and their access to space and resources. And that's my core alignment with the group. So I'm happy to be here and hope to work more with you all.
Thank you. And I am just so happy that you're here. It was a pleasure meeting you through the interview process. And like I said, I look forward to meeting you in person. Anyone else want to introduce themselves? I've already done it in the past. Anyone else? A little difficult when we're on Zoom, right?
I'm Judith Mazza. I live in the South End, off of 2nd Avenue. I and work at part-time at the Department of Health and the AIDS Institute. I spent a lot of time in the AIDS Institute and went back after I retired to do Medicaid policy with some of the colleagues that I had already worked with. I've lived in the city of Albany, I don't know, it's 1985.
Okay, thank you, Judith.
Well, me and Trayvon go way back. We know each other for a few years now. But I'll introduce myself. My name is Aaron Moore. I'm a local professional actor in the area. I'm an anti-racism diversity workshop leader as well. And I also work in higher education.
Thank you, Aaron. Anybody else? Okay, then, so we're moving along with the.
Rosie's here.
Rosie's here.
Oh, hi, Rosie.
Hi.
Hey, you want to introduce yourself real quick for us? I'm glad you made it.
Thank you. Want to say hi to all the new folks. Glad to have you.
Thank you. Anybody else popped on? I don't want to overlook anyone.
Yeah.
Again, thank you all for taking time out because I know everyone's busy and this is a tough time. So I certainly appreciate you folks definitely getting on this call. So I'm going to move along to, I don't think Mrs. Alexander is on the line either. So I'm going to move along to the chair report and hot topics together and just share with you what I had. So for, of course, COVID-19, I think everyone is familiar with that now and how devastating it has been to everyone and how disproportionately it has impacted the Black and Brown community as well. I want to share with you that I had a meeting with New York State Division of Human Rights. They called all the local chairs of the local Commission on Human Rights. That was back in the early part of March. And it was a fairly quick meeting. It was only approximately 30 minutes. It was a very interesting call because I think a lot of the commissions throughout New York State was trying to figure out how we can, for one, impact COVID, or we all still struggling with it, and as well, the local commission seeing what they can do differently. And I think being on that call, everyone was kind of struggling where they are and where they go. Even surprisingly, some of the human rights commissions actually adjudicate claims, which we do not, but we all were somewhat in the same boat on that call. And like I said, the call was only 30 minutes. It was a quick call. They organized it quickly. I guess they reached out a quick turnaround time, reaching out to the human rights, the chairs of the Human Rights Commission. So from that call, they did mention a few things, such as I don't want to miss this, the hate crime task force, which I also posted on the Facebook site as well. I think that was very interesting because we had a brief discussion about Asian Americans and the coronavirus. I brought up African Americans, Latinos, and the impact as well. It was a brief discussion about hate crimes and really getting the information out in regards to that. And really, the hotline, which I did post on a Facebook page, the hotline number, the 1-888-392-3644, really pushing that number for folks who contact us in regards to any type of hate crime, because it's even more prevalent now. We think we don't have data. It's just it's not fact, but many people on the call felt that a hotline number, a new updated hotline number was needed. And I'm glad that they actually did that. So far, all the folks who were on that call, as far as New York State, there wasn't a lot of new data or great data in regards to that so far, but they are expecting more cases. So we are encouraged to have folks call New York State Division of Human Rights. So that was a big theme throughout the call that we had. It was good to know that they had some literature specifically about discrimination in regards to the coronavirus. That was interesting. Also, we went over some of the stuff that is on the Division of New York State website, such as the time limits being increased from, to May 7th, 2020. Governor Cuomo issued an executive order suspending the time limits for most legal actions in New York State until May 7th, 2020. That was something that was discussed somewhat in detail as well. And I do believe that New York State received a lot of calls in regards to that. So that's a good thing. We also on the call briefly just went over some of the new effective dates, such as back in January, which I did not realize, is that under New York State law, settlements of employment discrimination claims cannot prevent complainants from speaking to an attorney, to New York State Division of Human Rights, to EEOC, or local human rights commission. I didn't even know that had was even instituted. So we briefly went over that and what that means to the local human rights commission. And basically we still, from that call, we still sit in a place of education and getting the word out and getting information out as far as our position as it was discussed on that call. They also mentioned about the human rights law applying to all employees in New York State, even those with fewer than four employees. So in the past, it was a different number. I think it was 20 or whatever. So that was a change. And the 1-year statute of limitations for filing with the division for the extended to 3 years for sexual harassment cases only. So that extension for 3 years for sexual harassment, that was mentioned as well. So the call was interesting, it was very brief. Hopefully they'll move forward and have another call. With the COVID-19, we also discussed domestic violence, and they mentioned a hotline. Also mental health. And you know, Cornwall has a new mental health hotline. And actually, I know a few people who use the mental health hotline, and they just raved about it in regards to the supportive people who are on that hotline. So I guess there's a lot of volunteers as well. So that was very helpful. What else do I have on here other than that? Get back to that call. The biggest thing was, and a lot of folks I think wanted to know, including myself, is for the Human Rights Commission, what can we do? And that was the big theme throughout. Most of it was basically education at this point. So I kind of thought that it was going to be a little bit more of a takeaway. Not that the discussion was not a good discussion, but I was looking for more of, with all those folks in the room, I thought it was going to be a lot more amazing input. Not that they weren't amazing, but I didn't find too much enlightenment or new things being done elsewhere. So that was that call. I do attend that Census 2020, the meeting from the city that we typically have. And of course, that has fallen off since New York calls and the social distancing and all of that. It is evident that I believe the pandemic certainly will impact our Census 2020, unfortunately. I had the pleasure of presenting for the NAACP almost a week ago in regards to COVID-19 and how it impacts African Americans. That was good. It was a good call. It wasn't Zoom. It was good feedback. I received good feedback from it. It was very highly attended. I was also on the national NAACP call a couple of days ago. Is that yesterday? No, a couple of days ago. And that had, 25,000 people on it. And that was, of course, highly attended NAACP meeting as well. So they're posted on Facebook. So if they come up again, please try to listen in. It was good information. They had the mayor, Mayor Bottoms and Cuomo, Governor Cuomo and all those folks did speak, and healthcare disparities that we all know about. It's good to have that addressed and good to have that up in the forefront. So what else do I have here? That's mainly what I have as far as my chair update, other than community engagement, other than still promoting social distancing and social responsibility. I have not heard a lot of complaints in regards to discrimination in relation to the treatment with COVID-19 here in Albany, other than folks complaining about testing. So we do have the new testing sites, and a lot of folks complain as far as making appointments, and other places did not have to make appointments. Well, that was a misunderstanding, miscommunication, because that was not true. Everyone has to make an appointment to get COVID-19 testing. And I went to all the sites and I've called all the numbers, and it was nice to be able to clear that up. Folks were just had misinformation. So that was a big piece that I cleared up, because so many people inboxed me about that. And that was kind of easy to clear up, just calling the places and even going to see the sites. I think that was a benefit as well. So folks felt more comfortable that they weren't being discriminated against in regards to the actual testing. Going over the criteria, putting it on Facebook, meeting with people. I even presented it at the NAACP, so everyone's on the same page. So that kind of cleared up a lot of things. I did get a ton of calls in regards to that. So everyone, in case you get a call, everyone does have to make an appointment. The rules are the same across the board. I haven't called anyone and this testing site is doing A and that testing site is doing B. Nope, same across the board. And Other than that, as far as the chair update, hot topics, that's all I had for that, except for the little brief conversation that Judith and I had in regards to the gatherings, whether APD is involved with the gatherings, because we still see a lot of people gathering. And know APD, from my experience and from what I see, and I'm looking out the window at a huge gathering right now, APD is not being engaged with that. And I don't even know how they would anyway. So that's all I have in regards to the hot topics. I guess we can have discussion after that. One thing that I did add for with our new people being on board with Mr. Commissioner Jackson and Commissioner Alexander did remind me of our onboarding process. So hopefully me and Angelica can get together and bring back what we used to for the onboarding process, because I'm just realizing far as the bylaws, typically you get your packet of bylaws, typically when you come in and sign your paperwork, that was an event within itself. And it was very nice. And those things kind of fell off. So hopefully we can bring those back when we have new folks to get that onboarding back on point the way it used to be. Because we're so happy to have these people. And it's great for a new person to really get the real onboarding when you get in your packet. And even yourself, before the first meeting, you can read the bylaws, you can gather questions, and just get a feel of what's going on. And I think it's a nice thing to do, to come down City Hall and sign, get a picture, whatever you're gonna do, whatever you choose to do. I know you presented, had a welcome at Common Council as well. That was nice. But I think as far as the commission goes, we need to get our onboarding back together with that. Okay, so what's next on this agenda is our committees. We always talk about these committees, and I just want to give you a little update, and other people can jump in as they want. I'm gonna skip to MLK. I did speak to Common Councilman Robinson and Kimbrough in regards to MLK and the parade that we have, because that does belong to us. So they certainly gonna follow up. Things went a little awry this past MLK Day, and things were, I think the state had changing of the guard as well, different employees. They tried something different this year, so it didn't really pan out as they expected it to. So going forward, hopefully we will be involved to the point where we should be. And Councilman Robinson and Kimbrough said that they're definitely looking to that as well.
Brenda, I have a question on that. So when you say the MLK belongs to us, do you mean the commission or the city of Albany generally?
Commission.
Okay.
Commission, yeah, the Human Rights Commission. That was always tasked, and the chair and executive director used to go to the meetings, and I know the meeting fell off. It started like a couple years ago because the one lady left. I can't think of her name. Fazina or whatever her name is. She did an excellent job for years and years. And sometimes when a person like that retires, then the whole program kind of feels it a little bit. So I think that is what happened. But typically we're more involved, especially that little March piece, because they turned everything else over to New York State except that little piece. So hopefully we can look into that again. Part of the education piece, even speaking with, a few meetings that I've had, even with New York State Division of Human Rights, they talk much about that being the piece that the local commission can still assist with. But it's hard right now during the pandemic, other than, we have our Zoom. Hopefully, of course, this pause will, if our numbers come in right, eventually we'll get back to our new normal or whatever we want to call it. But so far, the education piece, I think, will be our strong point as far as the commission goes. And as far as committees, that's all I had on that. Our event, the Human Rights Reception, of course, everyone knows that was canceled. I do have a question whether folks want to just hold off to next year, whether commissioners was thinking about still trying to do something. It's just so hard because we don't know what tomorrow is going to bring or how long this situation is going to be. But if folks think of whatever they think about that in regards to the human rights reception, whether they want to hold off to next year or whether commissioners want to do or look at something later in the year, or unless you want to talk about it at our next meeting, or any thoughts on that?
I would say hold off till next year, because I don't, even if we will be able to do it here somehow, even as early as June, I don't think the public is going to trust enough to come to
I
large
agree.
stuff.
I agree.
I don't think anything like that's going to be a large gathering on that scale is going to happen. I don't even think even in the summertime, unfortunately.
I
Even if they
agree.
open it up. So I would suggest we do it next year, and we can go
I
full out,
agree.
hopefully.
Thank you, Aaron. Anybody else?
Yeah, even if we thought around doing it maybe in January, even though sometimes January is you run into some really bad weather, but sometime around Martin Luther King Day, have it somehow connected, kind of move it. It's got possibilities that it might attract people more.
Okay, all right. So far, it's gonna be a wrap for this year, because I do agree with Aaron and you too, Judith.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna get anywhere anytime
The other
soon.
thing that we weren't able to follow up with last year, this year, we could do something around the National Human Rights Day, which is typically December 10th. And especially with so many new things that we have on the horizon for the New York State Division of Human Rights, some of the new stuff that they came out with, which is kind of would be new to a lot of people. People already in the area might not be new to them, but it's a lot of, I think, somewhat new things that we could share if we did something around Human Rights Day as well, which is typically December 10th, somewhere around there, whatever. So that's a thought as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think that'd be good to get the education out. And before I go to the executive director's report, I just wanted to mention one thing that I forgot. Before I go to the executive director's report, let you have the last say on that. I did just want to bounce up and do the update on the equity agenda. And I did meet with Councilman Robinson and Kimbrough about that as well. Also, just had a brief meeting with Angelica too about the equity agenda. And from Councilman Robinson and Councilman Kimbrough, we were speaking about some of the data because I had heard that some of the data in regards to street repairs and, well, basically street repairs and street repair process had already gone out. So I spoke to Kelly Kimbrough about that, as well as Jamel Robinson, and they were going to follow up with that to see where the data is. And if the data did go out under the equity agenda, why we kind of were left out the loop, or how we can fix the loop, or in some way, somehow, how we get that information so that we can feel our way around and find out how we want to work that type of information when we do get it. So it was a couple of people who did mention that the info did go out. Like I said, for some reason, we got left out of that loop. So those two council persons, I think, will be looking into the equity agenda part to try to make sure that we're in the loop the way that we should be, and get the information so that we can work out our own process of how we can help as intended along with the equity agenda. So that's just an update that I had about that. So Angelica?
Yeah. Okay, so I've got a couple things that I wanted to update you guys on, but the first one would be just to let you know about the in terms of EEO stuff. The complaint form is online. It's a fillable PDF because usually in the past, before this all happened, it was a form that people tended to fill out by hand and submit it to HR, and then that would get to me. But now it is online. It's a fillable PDF. I accept it by email. It's available to all employees on our work from home drive, so it's there. I haven't received anything so far, but I just wanted to let you know that it's very clear where it is, and an employee should know where to get it. Investigations are still ongoing. It took a little bit of a back burner to a lot of the more pressing issues that I've been handling since this all started. But all the files are with me at home, so they are getting done. We have received one complaint through the website about the denial of unemployment benefits. That complainant was referred to legal aid. But so far I haven't heard anything else in terms of human rights complaints, but I did want to make you guys aware, if you were not aware of it, that the Department of Labor, the New York State Department of Labor, does have a complaint process for complaints that are related to COVID-19 regulations, primarily those being if you mostly dealing with essential and non-essential, if you've been deemed non-essential but your employer is still making you go to work, or if there's something about the working conditions. So that's all available online, and I had the link teed up. Yeah, so the best way to send it, I can send it through the chat form here right now so that you are familiar with the link. So that is available. So if you hear any complaints from people about their employers, that would be the best place to go. And then I want to make you guys aware that from my end as Chief Diversity Officer for the City of Employee, I am well aware of how COVID-19 and the kind of fallout of it is impacting different vulnerable communities, historically underserved communities. Impact is going to be really great on different communities in different ways, and we're keeping our eye on that. Every week, myself, community development, and Eva's shop, community outreach, and the mayor's and a representative from the mayor's office, we meet every week to discuss all these different types of outreach efforts that we have going on to ensure that nothing is redundant and that we're covering all of our bases as much as possible. So we do have these meetings every Tuesday, and so we're in touch about these things, and it's been very helpful to kind of get a big picture idea as to what different departments are doing, and the kind of communication and interdepartmental relationship building is there. So a couple of things have been going on out of that. And then another thing is that we were able to lock down some language translation contracts. We have 2 vendors who are assisting us with translating documents. I mean, in general, this was something that we needed in terms of language access, but we were able to really push it through in the past couple of weeks. And we are in the process of getting all of our resources and signage translated into the 5 top volume languages in the city of Albany. So we should start expecting to see those things popping up. And that was a really great thing to happen, because that was my biggest concern about a lot of the signage that was going up, was that it was in English only, and that wasn't going to be sufficient. So those things should start being translated. The top ones, I think, is the mayor's COVID-19 resource guide that's being translated. And then ACDA put out a survey to the public about how COVID-19 relief funds from the CDBG funds should be spent. And that survey was released last week, but then over the weekend, we were able to translate it into our top 5 volume languages. So those will be going out to the community again for another week for people to respond. So that was a really big interdepartmental effort, and I was really glad that that had happened. I think that Oh, and just sexual harassment prevention training is, I'm working on that and ensuring that despite all of this, that training is going to be put online. And so we'll still be able to ensure that employees are taking that training and are aware of the reporting mechanisms. And that reporting mechanism is also going to be available online and will be emailed straight to me if anybody is going to fill it out. Oh, and finally, back in February, the last time we were all able to meet in person, we had discussed the annual report. And back, I think it was February 19th, I had emailed a draft of the 2019 annual report. And I needed, since I hadn't been in this position in 2019, I wasn't fully aware of the year's activities. So if you can take a look at that draft and just let me know if there's anything that I'm missing and needs to be added. I think the Common
Okay.
Council should understand that, we're a little late on it this year, but the circumstances are understandable.
You said you sent it out in February?
Yeah, February 19th. I can resend it if you want me to.
Would you? Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you.
that would be helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, please. Thank you.
Mhm.
That was a past life.
Yeah.
I know, right?
In my world, that's like,
Yeah, I forgot to mention one complaint that I received in regards to the city as well, in regards to the COVID-19 and one policy they put out in regards to the sick leave and the 2-week off rotation, and some individual was off and there was discrepancy he felt in regards to pay. But once going over the actual policy that he was given step by step and having a discussion about it, that resolved the complaint. Once we, I think sometimes reviewing a process and hearing it out loud and seeing what you did and compare that to the actual policy, it made it a lot clearer to the person that no, you weren't treated unfairly. It clearly says X, Y, and Z here, and you didn't do that, so therefore this happened. So I was able to clear that up. That was a good conversation, a good lesson learned to the person. So okay, that was good. Okay. So any comments, you guys? Go around. Anything, Judith?
No, I think we're good.
All right. Anything, Aaron? Where's Aaron?
Nope, I'm fine. I'm
All
fine.
right. I don't know if Rosie's still on. PG, Commissioner Jackson, anything for you?
Yeah, I actually had a quick question. You had mentioned street data, and is that related to the federally funded improvement projects that are also going through CDTC?
No, it was in regards to the repair of city streets in Albany and the repair schedule being equitable. And that was a big part of the equity agenda that the mayor spoke about in regards to streets, roads, infrastructure, things of that nature. And that's part of the equity agenda that we have a big part of, just to make sure that we look at every process in the city of Albany through an equity lens. And that's kind of our job, but it hasn't happened yet. So we're trying to jump in there and get that going. So a lot of moving parts there to try to make sure that we get involved and do the job as designated by that equity agenda. So it was the road repair, the paving, the things like that.
Understood. Yeah, I bring that up because I'm also on CDTC, it's a transportation planning committee, and they have their own equity agenda for federal. Yeah, so our next meeting is like,
Elaine Frazier and those guys.
yeah, our next meeting is in like 11 days, and I'm sitting here thinking there should be no shortchanging of information. Is what was running through my head.
Emails. I used to attend their meetings. I just had too many meetings. I couldn't go anymore.
Oh, I know how that goes. Yeah,
I had too many meetings. I had to let it go. Plus, Elaine was doing a good job holding it down, and the emails are very informative too. So
yeah. Okay, well, good to know. Well, they are still meeting, and that's why that came to mind. So I just wanted to clarify.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't have anything else. I thank you all for attending this meeting. I'm glad it was a success. Thank you, Angelica, for setting up the Zoom meeting, and to be continued next time. Meeting adjourned.
So will we do it on our